Hi guys, we're
Hey,
reluctantly back.
we are, but we also are not doing intros like we used to because we can't
We
remember.
forgot. Yeah, we can't remember what we did last time.
But if you are new here, this is Wait for Real. We do cover dark history, paranormal, sometimes true crime, a whole bunch of fun stuff.
Yes,
And that's
whatever we're
Katie,
feeling.
and I'm
Oh
Grace.
yeah. Oh my God, I was like, fuck it, you should know who we are right now. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm Katie, that's Grace. And I have a story for Grace. So
Yes,
our friend RJ came up.
we love RJ.
I don't even know. Time isn't real. A weekend ago? 2 weekends
Yeah,
ago? Whatever.
last
The point
weekend.
is, yeah, sure. Okay. So we ended up at this vintage store just like by accident. It was cute. But there's this painting on the wall, and I didn't say anything because you for sure would have like chatted up with the guy because he was chatting up everybody. And I was like, if you know me, I'm just not about that life. Okay. I'm like, actually, don't perceive me at all. But there was a painting on the wall. Like there are a few like antique paintings, not for sale, just like for decoration. I'm trying to find the picture of it that I have. And it was of a girl, but the girl's face was covered by something above it. And it had a warning on the painting, and I'll include it in the Instagram post, which will include stuff from this episode and last episode because I never posted the one last time.
Meh, guys, we're just fucking out here, okay? Leave us alone.
Like,
Don't come
we're
for us.
okay. So it says, hi, my name is Meg on like a little piece of paper on the side. And then there's like a permanent like plaque on the painting. I'm going to show it to you. Or I'm going to send it to you because it's going to be easier.
Yeah.
And it says, please avoid eye contact with the painting. I'm sending it to you. So like you can't
What?
see her face at all. It's covered by like a purse or some shit. Um,
My gosh, Amazon's here with more of my deliveries.
I love that. Hey, Amazon.
I love that when I sit. So I think I've talked about this before, but I sit with like I'm
You're
facing
facing
my
a
main
window.
window.
Yeah.
So whenever they drop off packages and they take a picture, sometimes you just see my legs in the photo because it's a big window. All right, she sent me the
Yes.
picture. Now I'm ready. Well, that's fucking creepy as hell.
I know. I'm like, I
Also, it's
kind of
not
need to go
like.
back and I need to figure out what the story is.
Also, like I thought you were gonna say, "Hi, my name is Meg," is like part of a plaque. No, that's like just a piece of
It's
paper.
a piece of paper that's taped on.
Please avoid eye contact with
And
painting.
she's obviously like a child, right? Like, look at those hands. Or a really small lady. Who knows?
I hate
Probably a
everything about
child.
that.
I need to go back though. I'll do it for the pod.
Do
And
it for the
I
pod, but
will.
don't. What if you like move it and it's her
I'm not
face and
going to
she's
look
like,
at her face. Then I'm taking a picture and I'm posting it for everybody to be haunted with us.
it's like the
We're
Annabelle
all
doll.
going down. Yeah, we're
You're
all
like,
going
I'm
down
gonna cuddle
together,
the doll, then
guys.
everyone goes down with me.
That's
Ew,
right.
I hate that so much. I mean, it's like really on par, but
Right?
I
I
still
was
hate
like,
that.
damn. And then I told RJ about it after, and he's like, I wish I had seen it. I would have asked him. I'm like, I know you would have. That's why I didn't
Maybe
say
that's why I didn't
anything.
say anything.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was gonna say I have a I was talking to this guy that just came back from a trip to Sedona, Arizona. I don't
Hmm.
know why he's like Mr. Gung Ho Sedona right now, but regardless, this man like has maybe said 10 words to me in the past 5 years. Now he just like goes on this whole rampage about how he went to these small towns. I'm not gonna say them because I want to be able to cover an episode on them,
Okay.
but they're like considered like some of the most haunted towns in America, I guess. I mean,
Every
then again,
town.
like every
Yeah.
town is.
Every town claims that. Okay.
Yeah. So, but I will say that while he was there, it was like crazy because every person was like, oh, yeah, like I've met Bigfoot. Or like, oh, yeah, like the aliens that come down, like they're all fucking bananas.
I love that.
A whole town of it. And then he was like, you should buy a real estate there. And I'm like, maybe I should. And
You
then
should. Why not?
why don't we just build like a bar/bookstore in a creepy town in America?
Wait, there's a bookstore here that's like a ghost book, like it's specifically
Ghost books.
paranormal and yeah. Yeah,
I love
I
it.
know.
Oh my goodness. That's so
Also,
great.
side note, shocking. Side note already. Every time I never know how to hold my mic,
Yeah,
okay? And it
same.
makes me feel like I'm like a Lego person. The way I'm holding it. Yeah, I'm like, I need
I
a
want to stand, but
stick.
we're out here on a budget
I'm
still.
literally
So
sitting on my couch. I'm like, I was about to be like, me too. And it's like, where am I gonna put the stand?
You need like a free handstand, like a
Yeah. I
just
need
carried around the
a
house.
boom mic. I need someone to come stand here, hold it above me. Not in my
Seriously.
shot. Away, but
Not in my shot. Out of my shot. Out of my shot. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. What are you covering
Anywho.
today?
No, so I have like probably like 7 topics that I've, like made notes on and said, I want to cover these at some point. And then out of nowhere, I didn't pick any of those because I
That's how
was
it
like,
happens.
yeah. And it's also, I have these moments. Is that Riley chewing on
Yeah,
something?
yeah, it
Yeah. If
is.
you guys hear noise, that's the dog.
Hopefully not,
Um,
because that's why we pay extra for magic mastering.
hell yeah. Um, so anyways, I was like researching some different topics and I was looking at like, like what part of dark history do people maybe not know, even though you and I might. And now there's a
Magic
barker.
mastering is not going to cover that. Riley, come. Riley, come here.
Riley's a
Place.
paid actor, actually.
Place.
Who is he barking at?
Something in the hallway. Come here.
Oh,
Come. Good boy. Good, Riley. No.
guys, Riley is actually part of the programming, so you just have to
Yes,
accept him too.
that's right. If you can tell us the exact second where he started to bark, we'll shout you out on the next podcast.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a jump scare. You're gonna be like listening to us. It's like, "Ugh." Ew. Katie's probably pretty aware of this because we both have psych backgrounds, but I wanted to talk today about the Stanford prison experiment.
Yeah, I mean, we've needed to cover this at some point.
Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's
It's
one of
so fucked
those,
up.
it's like a rite of passage, though, almost like in psychology.
And like I totally get ugh,
Watch what you're
you
gonna
know,
say here.
yeah,
What we're gonna say.
from like a researcher's standpoint, I can understand kind of where he was going in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
I understand like what he was trying to see, but it's like this went way too far. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
he's
that's
like,
the whole. Is he
he's like,
insane? I don't
I
know
mean,
anything about him aside from
okay, so
this.
yeah, let me talk about him a little bit.
Okay,
He's dead. So he died 2 years ago. I actually met him at a conference.
of course you did, Grace.
Um, and he was like, everybody always said he was like a big ladies' man, which is gross.
Ew.
Yeah, I hated that. But
I
I
didn't
want to
think he
talk,
was attractive. I've seen his
he's
picture.
not.
Okay,
But I
that's why
think
I'm
people
like,
just get like attracted to like him and like the persona and like, being around a famous person because he's famous because of fucking mentally like fucking up people. But regardless,
it's the same thing with people that are obsessed with, not that he's a serial killer. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people write
yes.
prisoners because
Yeah.
they, whatever reason.
Yes. Whenever, if you ever take like a psychology 101 course in college or high school or whatever, they 9 times out of 10 are going to talk about the Stanford prison experiment. I think that, some of us glaze over like what it is. Like, obviously, whenever it's talked about, it's pretty much like bad things happen to people. And you're like, yeah, that sounds right. But I'm going to like sort of do his timeline of what happened. I'm going to talk a little bit about him. And then I'm going to talk about some of the critiques of the actual study itself. So, again, Katie, probably you already know a lot of this, but Philip George Zimbardo was born on March 23rd, 1933, and he passed away on October 14th of 2020. So he was an American psychologist and professor at Stanford. Shocker. He was internationally known educator, researcher, author, and media personality in psychology. He authored over more than 500 articles, chapters, textbooks, and trade books covering a wide range of topics that include things such as time perspective, cognitive dissonance, the psychology of evil, persuasion, cults, de-individuation, shyness, and heroism. Heroism?
Heroism.
Heroism? He became known for his 1971 Stanford prison experiment, and obviously that was very much criticized and looked down upon in the science. He's also like coined other terms such as like books on shyness, the Lucifer effect, and the time paradox. So he was the founder and president of the Heroic Imagination Project, which was a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting heroism in everyday life by training people how to resist bullying, bystanding, and negative conformity, which I think is like, I don't know, maybe a full circle moment. But
Yeah.
he also pioneered the Stanford Shyness Clinic in the 1970s that offered the earliest comprehensive treatment program for shyness. He's won a
It's not a
ton.
disease. Why is he
No,
talking about
but
it?
yeah. So he's recipient of numerous honorary degrees and awards from other institutions. He basically was the he also was the APA, so the American Psychological Association president for a period. He was president of
Hmm.
other organizations. Like, he was a huge, huge, huge name in psychology. And they say that, like, since his upbringing, he was born in New York City, and he lived in the South Bronx, and he experienced a lot of like bullying and prejudice because he grew up from a poor Sicilian American immigrant family. And a lot of that sort of like influenced his later research in school. And basically, he like, I mean, he's just a very, very smart individual. And he got into teaching and wanted to see and understand how people work. And that sort of like led into his work that he did while he was at Stanford. So let's talk about the Stanford prison experiment for a minute, for a little bit. So it's also known as the Zimbardo prison experiment. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a controversial psychological experiment that was performed in August of 1971 at Stanford University. It was designed to be a 2-week simulation of a prison environment that examined the effects of situational variables on participants' reactions and behaviors. Stanford University psychology professor Philip Zimbardo managed the research team who administered the study, and they ended up ending the experiment early after realizing the guard participants' abuse of the prisoners had gone too far.
Early,
So,
not early enough.
well, yeah, you're not wrong. So let's talk about recruitment and selection for the study. So this again is 1971. I don't know. I feel like men's hair is just puffy and big, and everybody is just like, money is, you're in college at Stanford, so you're probably broke as fuck, but
Yes.
teach their own. So Zimbardo got approval to conduct the study through a grant, and the grant was through the Office of Naval Research. So the government funded this project.
Of
Um,
course they did. They love prisons.
and the goal was to understand antisocial behavior. So the Navy and the United States Marine Corps really wanted to investigate this conflict discussion between military guards and prisoners. Hence, where we start to come into this experiment. So once he got approval from the university to conduct this study, he recruited participants through. Oh, I hear a puppy,
Okay, he's barking at his teething toy.
which is even
If
cuter,
he
honestly.
continues to do it, I will mute myself
Stop. You're
to
fine.
limit distraction.
So he recruited participants through the Palo Alto Times and the Stanford Daily newspaper. So he had there was a help wanted section. Oh my goodness, he is trying to bark up a storm. So, anyways, there was a help wanted section of the newspaper, sort of where people would go to look for jobs. And in that stated the following: it said, male college students needed for psychological study of prison life, $15 per day for 1 to 2 weeks beginning August 14th. Further information and applications come to room 248, Jordan Hall, Stanford U. So,
Wait, I
yeah,
do want to say though, $15 a day, really good for 1971. Like that's what they pay you for jury duty now.
I know. That's what I was trying to say
Like,
is like, it's
damn,
like, that's some
rolling
good
in it,
money.
right?
Yeah. So, of that, 75 men applied and they were screened, like heavily screened. So, they had assessments and interviews. 24 were selected to participate in the 2-week prison simulation. So, the applicants were predominantly white, middle class, and appeared to be stable psychologically and healthy. So, when I say these assessments, they had to look at things like criminal background, psychological impairments, medical issues, any of those things. So, they had these 24 men, and then on a random basis, half of the subjects were assigned to the role of a guard, and half of the other gentlemen were assigned to the role of a prisoner.
Right.
So how that each worked is that there was 9 guards, 9 prisoners, and then 3 potential substitutes for each group. So they agreed to participate for a 7 to 14 day period for $15 a day, which is an equivalent today, if we're looking at it, it's like $116 a day. So still not great, but I mean, money's money when you're a poor college kid. I probably would have done it. Let's be real.
In college, like that's
Yeah.
great. I would have been like, hell yeah. I'm about to make like 700 over $700 for a week.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And I get to potentially hit somebody? No, I'm kidding.
Grace's
So
dream.
let's talk about the prison environment. So the day before the experiment began, small mock prison cell small mock prison cells were arranged to hold 3 prisoners each. There was a small corridor for the prison yard, a closet for solitary confinement, and a bigger room across from the prisoners for the guards and the warden. So the experiment was performed in a 35-foot section of the basement of Jordan Hall, which is Stanford's psychology building. So literally, like, Zimbardo's office was just upstairs. So the prison had 2 fabricated walls. One was at the entrance and one at the cell wall to block observation. So each cell, which is approximately 7 feet by 10 feet, was unlit, was intended to house 3 prisoners, and had a cot with a mattress, sheet, and pillow for each prisoner.
Okay.
Prisoners were confined and were to stay in their cells and the yard all day and night unless the study was finished. In contrast, the guards were to stay in a different environment, separate from the prisoners. The guards were given access to special areas for rest and relaxation, were told to work in teams of 3 for 8-hour shifts, and were not required to stay on site after their shift. So let's talk about the roles. So Zimbardo assumed the role as superintendent. So he was the head warden, or I guess no, superintendent's higher than the warden. And then his undergraduate research assistant, David Jaff, I think is how you say his last name, Jaff or Jaffe, he assumed the role of the warden. So there's digitized recordings of the official, like there's a Stanford prison experiment website that has the recordings from all these things. And basically they're saying that, like, potentially that Warden David tried to influence the behavior of the prisoners, which sort of like doesn't help the validity of the experiment, because he
Right.
says at one point to one of them that they need to be more tough to the prisoners. That's besides the point. So orientation. The researchers had an orientation session for the guards the day before the experiment began, during which the guards were instructed not to harm the prisoners physically or withhold food or drinks, but to maintain law and order. The researchers provided guards with wooden batons to establish their status, de-individualizing clothing similar to that of an actual prison guard. So it was a khaki shirt and pants from a local military surplus store. And they had mirrored sunglasses to prevent eye contact and to create anonymity. So if you've ever seen pictures of, like, because I think they came out with like a movie on this and like all these different things, it's like the sunglasses were always like, oh, that's just to look cool. No, it was like very purposeful. It was to ensure that like nobody could make eye contact with one another, because we see, I mean, there's research out there that suggests eye contact and what that can do and influence people's behaviors. So based on the recordings from the experiment, the guards were instructed by the researchers to refer to prisoners by their number rather than by their name. This, according to Zimbardo, was intended to diminish the prisoner's individuality, which makes sense. With no control, prisoners learned they had little effect on what happened to them, ultimately causing them to stop responding and potentially give up. Zimbardo had explained... Sorry, there's a guy cutting my grass, and it's like something hit my window, and it scared the shit out of me.
That would scare me.
I was like,
Holy
okay,
shit.
well, this is how we die.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice knowing you.
So Zimbardo had explained the guard orientations in the prison system, instructed the guards to exert power over the prisoners. Further, Zimbardo asserts that his fellow research explicitly instructed the guards to not inflict physical harm on the prisoners, but at the same time to make the prisoners feel that they were in an actual prison, which is like a weird, whatever. Yeah. So basically, there's like this quote here. It says, asking a person role playing a guard in a prison simulation to be firm and in the action is mild compared to the pressure exerted by actual wardens or superior officers in real life prisons and military settings, where guards failing to participate fully can face disciplinary hearings, demotion, or dismissal. While this one was obviously, he's saying, is considered way less stressful. So I can't remember what I just left off on, but I got interrupted, guys. So now we're going to start talking about the events and the actual days. So on Saturday, August 14th, which was setup day, so the small mock prison cells were set up, and the participants who had been assigned a guard role had attended that orientation where they were briefed and given their uniforms. Then on Sunday, August 15th, or day one, The participants who had been assigned a prisoner role were mock arrested by the local Palo Alto police from their homes or assigned sites. So participants were not initially informed that they would be arrested, because they wanted the researchers wanted it to be a surprise,
Yeah.
which is insane because this was a breach of the ethics of Zimbardo's own contract that all the participants had signed. Um, So the arrest involved charging them with armed robbery and burglary, penal codes 211 and 459. The Palo Alto Police Department assisted Zimbardo's team with the simulated arrests and performed full booking procedures of the prisoners at the Palo Alto City Police Headquarters, which included warning of Miranda rights, fingerprinting, and taking mugshots. So all of these actions were video recorded by the local San Francisco television station reporter using Zimbardo's vehicle and just following them. Meanwhile, 3 guards prepared for the arrival of the inmates. So the prisoners were then transported to the mock prison after the police station, with the sirens wailing in the cop car, and they had blindfolds on, which is also
Oh, that's
dehumanizing.
horrifying.
Once they reached the Stanford County Jail, they were systematically strip searched, given their new identities, which was their inmate identification numbers and their uniform. So, prisoners wore uncomfortable, ill-fitting smocks without any underwear or stocking caps, as well as a chain around one ankle. Guards were instructed to call prisoners by their assigned numbers, sewn into their uniforms instead of by name, which then is dehumanizing the prisoner. The prisoners were then greeted by the warden, who conveyed the seriousness of their offense and their new status as prisoners. With the rules of the prison presented to them, the inmates retired to the cells for the rest of the first day of the experiment. On Monday, August 16th, or day 2, guards referred to the prisoners by their ID numbers and confined them to their small cells. At 2:30 in the morning, the prisoners rebelled against the guards' wake-up calls of whistles and clanging of batons. Prisoners refused to leave their cells to eat in the yard, ripped off their inmate number tags, and took off their stocking caps and insulted the guards. In response, the guards sprayed fire extinguishers at the prisoners to reassert control.
God.
3 backup guards were called in to help regain control of the prison. Guards removed all of the prisoners' clothes, removed their mattresses, and sentenced the main instigators to time in this special detention unit. They attempted to dissuade any further rebellion using psychological warfare. And one of the guards said to the other that these were dangerous prisoners that needed to be controlled. Mind you, all fucking simulation. But
Yes. Yeah.
on Tuesday, August 17th, or day 3, in order to restrict the act of disobedience, the guards separated and rewarded prisoners who had minor roles in the rebellion. So 3 spent time in the good cell, where they were receiving clothing, bedding, and food. Beds and food denied to the rest of the jail population. After an estimated 12 hours, the 3 returned to their old cells that lacked the beds. Guards were allowed to abuse their power to humiliate the inmates, so they had prisoners count off and do push-ups arbitrarily, restricted access to the bathrooms, and forced them to relieve themselves in buckets in their cells. Mind you, during all of this, there are researchers watching this. Zimbardo is
Yes.
watching on camera, this is fucking ridiculous. So the first prisoner to leave the experiment was Douglas Corpy, prisoner 8612. So after 36 hours, he had an apparent mental breakdown in which he yelled, "Jesus Christ, I'm burning up inside, and I cannot stand another night. I just can't take it anymore." Upon seeing his suffering, research assistant Craig Haney released him. In the 1992 documentary, which was the movie about the study, it's called Quiet Rage, Corpy asserted that the prison experiment had deeply affected him, and that experience caused him to later become a prison psychologist.
Wow.
So then in 2017, he sort of comes back and in an interview and says, actually, my breakdown was totally fake. I only did it so I could leave and return to study for my GRE exam.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so the thing is that basically we don't really know because Zimbardo says in 2018, like, like, that's not true. Like, this guy had a mental breakdown. Well, this
Yeah.
guy is like, no, 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 I definitely didn't. So you don't really know what's true at this point because
Right.
obviously Corpy is saying, that I just did that so I could get out. But in reality, for like what, 20 years or 10 years, he was saying that this is what caused him to be like psychologically like traumatized, and that's what he made him want to be a prison psychologist. I don't know where I stand on that one, but
Yeah.
to each their own. So he left on the third day. On Wednesday, August 18th, or day 4, witnessing that guards were dividing prisoners based on their good or rebellious behavior, the inmates started to distance themselves from one another. Rioters believed that other prisoners were snitches and vice versa. Other prisoners considered the rebels a threat to the status quo since they wanted to have their sleeping cots and clothes again. Prisoner 819 began showing symptoms of distress and began crying in his cell. A priest was brought in to speak with him, but the young man refused to talk with him and instead asked for a medical doctor. After hearing him cry, Zimbardo reassured him of his actual identity and removed the prisoner. When prisoner 819 was speaking to Zimbardo, the guards cajoled the remaining inmates to loudly and repeatedly decry that 819 did a bad thing.
Oh my God.
Prisoner 819 broke down immensely after hearing them yelling and calling him bad, and Zimbardo simply released him and gave him his pay and sent him on his way. Thursday, August 19th, day 5. This was the day that was scheduled for visitations by family and friends of inmates in order to simulate the prison experience. Excuse me. Zimbardo and the guards made visitors wait for long periods of time to see their loved ones. Only 2 visitors could see any one prisoner at a time, and only just for 10 minutes while a guard watched. Parents grew extremely concerned about their sons' well-being and whether they had enough to eat. Some parents left with the plans to contact lawyers to gain early release of their children, because now their parents are also under the assumption that this is legitimate.
Yeah.
Like, that's how insane this is to me.
Yeah.
On the same day, Zimbardo's colleague, Gordon H. Bauer, arrived to check in on the experiment and questioned Zimbardo about what the independent variables were for the research. Christina, I'm going to say her name wrong, Maslach, also visited the prison that night and was distressed after observing the guards abusing the prisoners, forcing them to wear bags over their heads. She challenged Zimbardo about his lack of caring oversight and the immorality of the study. Finally, she made evident that Zimbardo had been changed by his role as superintendent into someone she did not recognize and that she did not respect. Her direct challenge, as well as the shared opinion from the others, such as Curtis, the other researcher, prompted Zimbardo to end the study the next day. So remember, this was supposed to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So on Friday, August 20th, or day 6, due to Christina's objections, the parents' concerns, and the increasing brutality exhibited by the guards, Zimbardo ended the study. Zimbardo gathered the participants, so the guards, the prisoners, and the researchers, to let them know that the experiment was over and that he had arranged to pay them for the 6 days that they had experienced. Zimbardo then met for several hours for informed debriefing, first with all the prisoners, then the guards, and finally everyone came together to share their experiences. Next, all participants were asked to complete a personal retrospective to be mailed to him subsequently. Finally, all participants were invited to return a week later to share their opinions and emotions. So, Bull Dimsdale quoted Philip Zimbardo in a little-known interview from 1997, saying more than 50 people had observed the study in progress and no one had objected. And this interview was also published in a book called Anatomy of Malice, The Enigma of the Nazi War Criminals.
Oh gosh.
So later, psychological components of the Stanford County Jail were taken down, or physical components were taken down and out of the basement of Jordan Hall as the cells returned to their usual function as graduate student offices.
Jesus.
Zimbardo and his graduate student research team, so Craig Haney, Curtis Banks, began compiling multiple sources of data that they would use to write articles and things about the study.
Yeah.
So, according to Zimbardo, this study demonstrated that a simulated prison situation, rather than individual personality traits, causes participants' behavior to change. Using the situational attribution, the results were compatible with those of the Milgram experiment. And for those who don't know who the Milgram experiment was, it was basically a series of social psychology experiments at Yale University by Stanley Milgram, who intended to measure the willingness of study participants to obey an authority figure who instructed them to perform act of like conflicting with their personal well-being.
Was this
And
the shock one?
yes, so
Yeah.
it was administering seemingly dangerous and potential lethal electric shocks to another person. Um, Basically, conclusions and observations drawn from the Stanford prison experiment were largely subjective and anecdotal. The experiment is practically impossible for other researchers to reproduce. Um,
Why would you want to?
right. Well, that's the big thing is like a lot of like methodically sound and good research should be able to be reproduced. That was like the
Right,
big
that's the
thing.
whole like hallmark of a
Yes.
good research project.
Correct. So in 1973, Eric Fromm argued uh, as only a third of the guards displayed sadistic behaviors, the Stanford prison experiment is more accurately an example of how a situation cannot influence a person's behavior. He states that while there's generalizations in the experiment's results, and argued that the personality of the individual does affect behavior when imprisoned. Um, Basically, they're saying that this like also illustrated cognitive dissonance theory and the power of authority over someone else.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of, obviously based on just how we're discussing it, there's a lot of controversy surrounding this. And I don't know if you knew this, but in 2002, BBC tried to do their own prison study. So,
Why?
yeah. Basically, psychologists Alex Haslam and Stephen Riker conducted the BBC prison study in 2002 to examine Zimbardo's themes of tyranny and resistance. And then they published their results in 2006. It's a partial replication of the Stanford prison experiment. And they broadcasted a documentary series about it, which is wild. But it says that Haslam and Rikers advertised their study as a university-backed social science experiment to be shown by television. Guards were not instructed on how to behave, only to figure out how to manage a prison. Those who were selected as prisoners were instructed daily to complete a questionnaire. And everybody that was in the study had microphones attached to them and cameras following them around. Obviously, a lot of things were different from their study as compared to Zimbardo's. There's a lot of things because it was like Zimbardo says it was like a reality TV show because obviously these people had cameras following them. They knew how they were supposed to be acting on TV, make themselves look, as like a good guy or a bad guy, things like that.
Yeah.
So there's like, obviously, this stirred a lot of drama in the psychology community because people were like, if I look back on it, I'm like, that's fucked up. Like the whole thing to me, I'm like, what the actual fuck? And I bet that like when I was in college, I took part in a ton of research studies. Honestly, I feel like I could have been easily swayed to do a study something as crazy as this if the money
Yes.
was there. Like I would have done it.
16 a day to like a college student, even maybe not like right now if I was in undergrad. But you know what? Yes, I would. Let's be so fucking for real, okay? Like, and you think from the outside looking in, right? I'm not talking to the 70s, but I'm talking about like if this was done, if someone approached me about doing it, you think that it's safe because you're going into a research study with professionals. There's supposedly guidelines in place. Like, I wouldn't think, oh, I'm putting myself for psychological harm. Hello. I have a puppy right here.
There's a puppy dog.
And also, my personal opinion, I'll put this on Grace, is that if you saw the Stanford prison experiment or you looked into it and then you wanted to replicate it, something is wrong with you.
Oh, 100%.
And if you want a good real life example, again, this is my opinion, I won't drag Grace down with me, of what they were trying to look at, right? Does like putting someone in that position of guard, like does it change
Yeah.
the behavior? Just look at ice. Just look at ice. So we don't need to do any more experiments.
Not only that, like,
We're done.
so they talk about this comparison, like, to all these people that had this happen in like real life. So, for
Yes.
example, They tried to compare the Stanford prison experiment to the behaviors of prisoner torture and abuse at the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq, which was in like
Hmm.
published about in 2004. Basically, Zimbardo was like, "Oh, I'm struck by the similarity of this to my experiment," and he said he was dismayed by the official military and government representatives shifting the blame for the torture and abuse in the American military prison onto a few bad apples rather than acknowledging the possibility of systematic problems of a formally established military incarceration system. Like, literally, he's quoted, direct quote, saying, "I argue that we all have a capacity for love and evil, to be Mother
Yes.
Teresa, to be Hitler or Saddam Hussein. It's the situation that brings that out."
Right. Like this is obviously fiction, but Lord of the Flies, another
Oh
prime
God, I forgot about
example
that.
of where they're saying like given the opportunity, like there are people that will rise up like that. And fuck this experiment, okay? Nobody get any ideas. We're done with this.
Literally.
No
Yeah,
more
we've come
experiments
so
like
far.
this.
Can we like just remind ourselves like this is a terrible fucking idea? Like,
Also, this have we come so far? Also, the 70s, like, and honestly, before lawless time for psychology research. Like,
I mean, yeah, Milgram was 1961.
and
Like,
this was
what?
around the same time that they were doing the like twin triplet experiment in New York, which I want to cover dibs. But the point is also, do you remember the little was it what was it, Little Albert?
Yeah.
It's
Oh my
like
gosh, the
that was
bunny.
like before it was a mouse, I think.
Well, wasn't it a bunny too at some point? Oh no, Little Albert was the loud noise. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
And they wanted to associate it with the mouse, and they're trying to show that like you can condition him to be as afraid of an owl by banging. This is a baby, right? And they're like banging loud ass like pans or whatever the fuck together to startle him every time he sees a mouse. What is
Yep.
wrong with people?
Yep.
There was truly not a ton of regulation, basically. I mean,
No.
anywhere, right? Not even just in psychological
And
research.
I will say that like obviously we've come a long way because now whenever you do research at a university level there is an institutional review board, and
Yes.
like when I was in graduate school and I had to do research, I the IRB, that board is like no joke. Like they
Yes.
are checking every potential avenue for you to potentially fuck up and mess somebody up or also get the university sued.
And this is
um
why. This is why.
100%. Like for example, I was doing a research study at one point where I was looking at um long story short, because my research is boring, but basically I was having people complete a task that was really monotonous and they were in a room by themselves, and I wanted to see if they were lying to me about like getting their phone out or like
Yes.
not paying attention and things. And so I had to go through like a 6-month board review to be able to put a camcorder, like an old school camcorder, in the corner of the room to
Which is
record the person without telling
crazy.
them.
Yeah.
And then I mean COVID hit and then the world fell apart. But I literally, it took me 6 months to get that approved. And at the end of the study, I had to tell them that I had recorded them and if they wanted me to delete it before I could even watch it. So every person wanted it deleted. So like, but I did, like, of like the 10 participants that let me keep it, like one of them took a nap. One of them like called their girlfriend
Love
on
that.
FaceTime and talked shit about the study. Like,
God.
no joke, like it's wild. But that's why we
Yeah.
have these things, is because obviously we can't be like manipulating humans for this
To put
gain of science,
protections
like
in
this shit.
place. Right.
Yeah.
Like the long term effects of that experiment, I also, again, this is my personal opinion, don't even think that it could be fully studied because I also think that, especially back then, like men, they're not gonna fucking say shit about like feeling bad or having bad emotions. Like they
No,
don't
not
want
at
to
all.
confess to that. That's probably why that guy came out later and was like, I didn't have a breakdown. It's all a lie.
Yeah, like, no, actually, crying? What is that?
He's like, I've never cried a day in my life.
Literally. Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like probably to Katie, like, this was such like a, "No shit, I've heard this all before." But there's so many people out there, like, I know people that are gonna listen to this that have never heard of it,
Yeah.
which is like, "Oh, I heard a cat."
Yeah, Riley is annoying him. He came out. He jumped up here. It was a whole thing.
Riley and Archie are best friends or
They're
enemies.
frenemies. They're frenemies.
Frenemies, fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this is definitely a part of dark history. I mean,
Yes.
it's, like, wild to me. I mean, I guess It's like the twin experiments that were done during World War II. It's like, what the fuck? Like, you hear these things and you're like, what the hell? And also, like, it blows my mind that Zimbardo was allowed to continue to practice psychology and run studies after this.
Yes.
Like, I get, like, he found out, like, people suck and, like, we found out all these things about cognitive dissonance, but at what cost?
And also
Like,
putting himself as the superintendent, like that had to cloud his judgment. You can't tell me that that was like a
obviously.
clear fucking, and same with his fucking research assistant. Like both of you gone. The third one, he can
I
stay.
wonder what
Okay? He
happened
gets
to
to
his
write the
research
research.
assistant. You know what I mean? Like, whatever
Yeah.
happened to him?
Great.
Let me
He's
see if
probably
his
like a
name.
popular researcher. He's like gone on. No, I'm just kidding.
Can you
I have no
imagine,
idea.
like, your research advisor being freaking Zimbardo?
Yeah, but the guy that was the warden was drinking the Kool-Aid too.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, 100%. But I'm saying, like, ugh, I don't know. I mean, let's see. Hold on. I'm looking at the one that's not the warden, Curtis Banks. Let's see whatever happened to him.
Did they publish? Obviously, they had to. Did they
Oh my
publish
god,
any
they
research
published
and
a
stuff?
million things.
I'm gonna go read it after this.
It's not, I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect for this stuff.
Is there like any conclusion? Did they come to any like full conclusion, or it was just that
For
like,
this,
yeah,
I mean,
or
basically, like, so the, like, literally what I just pulled up is the um Naval Research Review Journal, and the
yeah,
study was called "A Study of Prisoners and Guards in a Simulated Prison." And, like, literally the um it says, like, here's the, like, the findings. It says studies such as this help identify and isolate the various processes which motivate aggressive slash submissive behavior within a total institution such as a prison. It says the Navy and Marine Corps have a direct interest in the conclusions drawn from this study, in as much as the parallels can be made between the forces which operated within Dr. Zimbardo's prison and those which spawned disruptive interpersonal conflict in naval prisons. Sounds like a whole lot of
okay.
bullshit.
I was about to say like, could you be a little more vague?
It says, like, most importantly, however, the study identifies some of the conditions which are likely to promote unrest when men are placed in simulations which demand close contact for a word I can't read, periods of
Okay,
time. Such research increases the Navy's capability to develop effective training designs to eliminate conditions which elicit counterproductive conflict.
mm,
So, moral of the story is, like, we
stupid.
gave you guys a bunch of money just for you to show us that, like, putting people against each other and abusing them is bad.
Yes.
So, anywho, dark history, friends.
Wait, did you see what happened to Banks? Is there anything on him, Curtis
No, I mean,
Banks?
that's basically the only thing that's come up with is just, like, the publications with his names.
Okay, he probably changed his name after that. He's like, I can't do
I
this.
mean,
Don't associate me with this.
honestly, though, I'm trying to see. Yeah, the only thing that his name pulls up on is that publication.
Oh my god, he probably for real was like, bye.
I mean, obviously, I'm gonna look into it more after the fact, but
Yeah.
my laptop is, like, propped on a tissue box that's empty on top of, like, another thing, so the laptop's high enough. So, like, if I try to type, it's game over.
Yeah, it's gonna just like Jenga, you know?
Seriously, though, I got, like, my work laptop on one corner, this on
Yes.
another. Mess.
Multitasking.
Yeah. So, anywho, that's some dark history I wanted you guys to hear about.
You did a great job. I loved it.
Thanks. Yeah. And I mean, we're gonna try to stay consistent, but we should be posting
TBD.
every 2 weeks on Thursdays.
It is
Um,
Thursday.
shh, they don't need to know,
Well,
Katie.
they know. It's 1 p.m. They know.
Shut up.
They don't even know we're posting every 2 weeks yet because I never posted yesterday.
Oh my god.
You
Guys,
just think we fell off?
we're just posting whenever we feel like it. Just let us
It's
live our lives, you
yeah,
know? I
because I have
mean,
to go back to work after this. Like it'll be by the end of the day, it'll be up. But
we're just out here fighting for our lives, okay?
we're not having fun. This is fun.
This
It's
is
just
fun.
outside of this.
It's like having
It's
to
not
be
fun.
adults is not fun.
God.
But yeah.
If you're getting a puppy, may I dissuade you? If you need more information, please call me at. No, I'm just kidding.
Is he chewing on something?
He was, but now I don't know where it went.
Oh,
Where's
famous.
the- Oh, I see legs. I see the cat and I see the dog not too far behind him.
Her house is actually a zoo now. I don't know if you
It
guys knew that,
is.
but
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, love that for you.
It's so fun.
So fun. Yeah. So, okay, if you made it this far, thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Like I said last time, we're really happy to be back and to have people that are dedicated to hearing from us every week because we're chaotic and that's what we do
Every other
best.
week is what she
Sorry,
means.
every other week. Who? Um
Anyway,
anyway, Katie will be posting this episode whenever she feels like it, and I
it's
respect it.
true. Thank
It's
you.
going to be on YouTube, so you can watch us talk, or you can also listen anywhere you get your podcasts. If you found this interesting, send it to a friend. If you didn't find it interesting, don't send it to a friend, but give us 5 stars. We love reviews. We love all of it.
So much fun.
Is there anything else I'm forgetting, I guess?
Send us your stories.
Yes.
Instagram, at Wait for Real Pod on all social medias, or waitforrealpod@gmail.com. And yeah, I think that's it.
I
I think
believe.
we should sign off like we used to because that's such a good sign off.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay.
We'll sign off as we usually do.
Go to therapy.
And don't forget to leave the lights on.